Hi friends, my name is krishnaakumalla. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to discuss about the objectives of the depreciation. Why should we calculate depreciation? What is the objective behind it? Not only that, we are also going to discuss about the factors affecting while calculating the depreciation. What are the factors we need to keep in mind? What are the factors we need to keep in mind while calculating the depreciation? So these are the two topics we are going to discuss in today's video. Right? Without wasting much time, let us get into the presentation. Okay? Okay, friends. What are the objectives of providing depreciation? Let us discuss about it. The first one is to ascertain the true results of operations. What do you mean by true results of operations? If I prepare my trading and profit and loss account, I have to get the true result. What do you mean by true result? Let us say I purchased an asset for 1 lakh, and with this asset I am able to generate 50,000 revenue. I am able to generate 50,000 revenue. So the revenue will come in credit side of my P&L account. Clear? If I generate this 50,000 rupees revenue with 1 lakh, what I'm supposed to do? Proportionate cost of this 1 lakh also to be debited in profit and loss account. Suppose if the useful life of the asset is 10 years, proportionate cost is going to be 10,000. 1 lakh divided by 10 years is going to be 10,000. So proportionate cost of this 1 lakh also to be debited. That is called, we already discussed, the proportionate cost of this asset is called depreciation, and that depreciation has to be debited. If I don't debit, I'm not ascertaining the true results of my operations. How can I say true results of operations? This 1 lakh is part of my operations, boss. 1 lakh asset, I used it for generating the revenue. When I'm generating the revenue by using that asset, don't you think that I have to debit my proportionate cost of an asset in my P&L account? I have to debit. If I don't do that, what will happen? I'm not ascertaining the true results of the operation. Clear? Second one, to present the true and fair view of the financial position. If I don't debit this, what will happen? I'm inflating my revenue. I'm inflating my profit. If I don't debit that, what will happen? My balance sheet, I will show only 1 lakh as an asset, but it is not 1 lakh. The asset value will be 90,000. Why asset value will become 90,000? 1 lakh I used it for 1 year. To the extent of 10,000, the asset value has been reduced. My asset value for next 9 years is going to be 90,000. So 90,000 is the one I am supposed to show in my balance sheet. 10,000 is supposed to be shown in debit side as operational cost, as a part of depreciation. If I don't show 10,000 rupees debit in P&L account, and if I don't reduce the 10,000 rupees from 1 lakh and showcase 90,000 in balance sheet as an asset, that means what? I'm not presenting the true and fair view of the financial position. So 10,000 I have to show here. I have to reduce 1 lakh minus 10,000, 90,000 I have to show as an asset in the asset side of the balance sheet. Then only I will be showcasing or presenting the true and fair view of the financial position. So depreciation has to be debited and it has to be reduced from the cost of the asset. Then third objective, to accumulate funds for the replacement of the asset. If I start debiting 10,000 rupees, let us take an example, 10,000 rupees every year, every accounting year, as a part of depreciation in my P&L account, what does it mean? I'm keeping aside 10,000 rupees every year. Like this, if I start keeping aside 10,000 rupees every year, after 10th year, how much I'm accumulating? Every year, 10,000 into 10 years. 10,000 into 10 is going to be 1 lakh. So by end of the 10th year, I should be having 1 lakh rupees funds available. Right? This 1 lakh funds, what I'm going to do? I'm going to make use of this 1 lakh for replacing the existing old asset. So this 1 lakh accumulated funds can be used for replacing the existing asset. If I don't do that, what will happen? I need to search for the funds. I need to search for the funds. That is one. Second thing is, I'm not ascertaining the true results of the operations, and I'm also not showcasing the true and fair view of the financial position. That is there. But if I don't do that, I'm not keeping accumulated funds for replacing an asset after some time. Because after 10 years, this asset cannot be used. Because useful life of the asset is only 10 years. That is what the manufacturer said. Suppose if you buy a car, your car dealer will say, sir, this car can be used for 15 years. So what you are supposed to do, after 15th year, you have to go and replace this car. Or if he says 10 years, after 10 years, you have to go and replace that car. I'm just taking an example. So similar way, if somebody says the machinery can be used for 10 years, after 10th year, this machinery is not going to produce anything. If that is not going to produce anything, you have to have an asset for replacing, right? How do you get the funds to replace the asset? Depreciation is going to help you. Because while debiting this depreciation P&L account on year basis, you are accumulating funds. These accumulated funds can be used for purchasing a new asset. So this is another objective. Last one, to ascertain true cost of production. As I said previously, if I don't debit 10,000 rupees for generating this 50,000 revenue, I'm not showcasing the true cost of production. Why? Because this 50,000 revenue I generated, do you think that I generated without incurring any cost? Tell me. How did I get 50,000 revenue? Go to any restaurant, you start any restaurant. Do you think that you can generate the revenue by starting the restaurant without incurring any expenditure? Day-to-day operational cost, production cost. You need to buy raw materials, right? You need to hire some people. You need to buy some machinery. You need to buy some equipment, right? There will be some allocated proportionate cost for running your restaurant. Similar way, if you want to generate any revenue, you have to incur some proportionate cost. Without incurring cost, you cannot generate the revenue. One of those operational cost is, one of those production cost is your cost of allocating the asset with respect to P&L. Because the asset is being used for generating this revenue. That asset is used for generating this revenue. Since that asset is used for generating this revenue, proportionate cost of that asset has to be debited. Proportionate cost of that asset for that particular accounting year is nothing but a depreciation. The depreciation has to be debited. If I don't debit, what will happen? You are not ascertaining the true cost of production. You are not ascertaining the true cost of production. Simple. So, if you want to understand what are the objectives of providing depreciation, to ascertain true results of operations, to present true and fair view of the financial positions, to accumulate funds for the replacement of the asset, to ascertain the true cost of production. These are the important objectives of providing depreciation. I hope you are very clear on this point. Next, what are the factors affecting the amount of depreciation? When I am calculating the depreciation, what are the factors I need to keep in mind? That is also important, right? You cannot calculate depreciation just like that. There are some factors to be taken into account. What are the factors to be taken into account? The first one is cost of the asset. How the cost of asset has to be arrived, those things we are going to discuss. Cost of asset is an important factor to be taken into account while calculating the amount of. Are you clear? Estimated useful life of asset. You go to any manufacturer who is manufacturing a machinery or an asset. He will decide, okay, I'm manufacturing this machinery, I'm going to sell this, and this machinery is going to be used for 10 years. This machinery is going to be used for 15 years. This machinery, estimated useful life of this machinery is 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They will decide and they will let you know. So as soon as you buy that machinery for producing a product, you should get to know what is the estimated useful life. So once you know that useful life for 10 years or 15 years or 100 years, you can calculate the depreciation accordingly. So for calculating depreciation, you have to have estimated useful life of the asset. Clear? Similar way, you also need to have estimated residual value. What do you mean by estimated residual value? Suppose I purchased a machinery for 1 lakh and useful life of this asset is 10 years. After 10th year, this asset will become scrap. After 10th year, this asset will become scrap because it is not going to produce anything. If this asset is not going to produce anything after 10th year, you can sell off the scrap. There's no point in keeping that asset, no? What is that you are going to do with that asset? That is not going to produce anything. It is unnecessarily going to occupy the space. So what you can do? You can sell off that asset. Once you sell that asset, you might get some scrap value. Maybe 10,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees, depends. Whatever amount you realize after useful life of the asset for selling the scrap, that is called estimated residual value. What do you mean by estimated residual value? Whatever amount you realize or you get after completing useful life of the asset by selling that asset, right? So once you get that value is called residual value. So that value is also important while calculating the depreciation. Scrap value, residual value is also important while calculating depreciation. We will get to know all these things while doing some of the illustration. Are you clear? So what are the factors going to impact our depreciation? Cost of asset is very important. Estimated useful life of the asset or expected useful life of the asset is very important. And the estimated residual value is also important for calculating depreciation. Right? So we understood what are the objectives of providing depreciation and what are the factors required to be kept in mind while calculating the depreciation also learned. That's all for today. Thank you so much.